In this video series, I will provide perspective, historical fact, and critical analyses of the current political landscape that gave cause for the resurgence of the American government, as we are taking the needed steps to restore our lawful government here in America. I will present to you how it is being done. The Federation of States has secured and offers to you your rightful claim to your inheritance as an American. And we ask that you join your fellow American state nationals in the work of finishing the reconstruction of our constitutionally guaranteed Republican form of government. Welcome back, America and the world, to today's episode of the Resurgence Pulse Report. I am your host, Louise Campbell Anthony, with the Peacekeeping Task Force for the Federation of States, that is, the United States of America Unincorporated. Let me introduce to you the perspective for today's episode. Watch this short video clip I found of an old vintage Dairy Queen commercial.
Now listen, now listen, now listen. I'm the Dairy Queen, won't you come with me along the milkshake way? I've got lots of good surprises, fresh and yummy for you every day. There are malts and shakes and sundaes too, whenever you stop. And of course your very, very favorite, the cone with the curl on top.
You don't have to just dream about Dairy Queen. Your favorite Dairy Queen treat is a refreshing reality at your nearest Dairy Queen store.
What does a 1950s Dairy Queen commercial have to do with today's topic, which is government franchises? The historical relevance is that more than 100 years ago, the government we all know of today became incorporated as private franchises in the same way that this Dairy Queen franchise did. Our government is being run as a private commercial franchise that is in the business of providing governmental services instead of ice cream. Dream of that. Not only ours here in America, but the lives of people in every country on this earth are being dictated by private commercial franchises, much like Dairy Queen, Amazon, Walmart, AutoZone, McDonald's. Your lives, your parents' lives, your grandparents' lives, your great-grandparents' lives. For the past 160 years, America has been run by private commercial franchises. Where is the proof of this, right? During the 1990s, alert financial analysts working for the Department of Defense discovered an odd thing. Numbers weren't adding up. A vast amount of public money was being embezzled. As the members of what came to be known as the Paradigm Project dug deeper, something even more astonishing appeared. Almost all of the governments on earth were being run as private, for-profit governmental services corporations chartered under the auspices of the United States Incorporated, all capital letters. All these franchises name things like France, Inc., Italy, Inc., United Kingdom, Inc., Australia, Inc., Germany, Inc., Japan, Inc., etc., were in turn being controlled by the United States, Inc., municipal government, an oligarchy run by members of Congress and originally limited to the plenary governance of the Washington, D.C. municipality. Now that you know this, it should open you up to a different interpretation when you witness Trump's capitulation tour. That was just business. And the bankrupt United States that Donald Trump is the chief executive officer of as he signed in his May 4th, 2020 letter. That I showed you in the previous episode. That's the same United States Inc. that he is CEO of. So first shock, almost all the governments on earth aren't governments. They are merely for-profit corporations in the business of providing government services. Second shock, these governmental services corporations are operated as franchises of the parent corporation, United States Inc. Third shock, the US Congress has been running all these governmental services corporations as if they were franchises owned and operated by the Washington, D.C. municipality and under their plenary control as an oligarchy. Now, stripping the onion another layer, the Paradigm Project discovered that not only had nearly all the traditional governments on earth been reduced to mere governmental services corporations owned and operated by the parent corporation, United States Inc., but the states and people being served by these new corporations had been similarly, unlawfully converted into corporate franchises as well. For example, Wisconsin had been reduced to a British Territorial State of Wisconsin franchise, and then further to a municipal State of Wisconsin Incorporated franchise belonging to the United States Incorporated franchise. Worst of all, living people had also been reduced down to corporate entities. An innocent American man operating under his trade name, such as Joseph Allen Smith, was reduced to a foreign cities trust, also named Joseph Allen Smith, belonging to the state of Wisconsin. And then after that, Joseph Allen Smith, the foreign cities trust, was declared missing, presumed lost at sea, and then converted into a Roman Municipal estate trust, doing business as Joseph Allen Smith Inc. It was created in his name as a franchise of the United States Inc. So when the United States Inc. goes bankrupt, what happens? Why, all its franchises are subsumed into the bankruptcy. The supposed governments of France, Inc., Italy, Inc., Germany, Inc., and so on are sucked into the bankruptcy as franchises of the United States Inc. And so are the states of states, like the state of Washington Inc. But here's where the big game lies. So are all the estate trusts of the living people, like Joseph Allen Smith Inc., sucked up into this bankruptcy as well of the United States Inc., and considered chattel, liable for its private debts. Fourth shock, your entire earthly estate is up for grabs as chattel backing the private debts of the United States Inc., a for-profit governmental services corporation operated under the authority of the Washington, D.C. municipal government, run by the members of Congress. Fifth shock, you don't know anything about this. Because if you did, you would naturally object, and that would spoil all their plans to steal your portion of everything and hand it over to their secondary creditors. You, the living people, are the paramount security interest holder in your name and your estate. And you are the priority creditor of the United States Inc. and all of its franchises. But they have purposefully misidentified you as a missing person and ward dependent on the United States Inc. so as to lay claim to your property as collateral backing their own private debts. According to their plan, you will be bankrupted along with all the other franchises of the United States Inc. And your assets will be given to their secondary creditors, the international banks, that will make a claim on abandonment, saying that the actual owners of the property are unknown and that the property has been abandoned. Meanwhile, the Paradigm Project did the obvious thing and foreclosed on all these illegal entities masquerading as governments. They also traced them back to the Vatican, acting as the property manager, and to the Holy See, which together with our lawful government, not the corporation, and a handful of other governments on earth remains unincorporated. Sixth shot. Corporations cannot and do not function as sovereign governments. If you are not operating your lawful, unincorporated government, you have no government, and you have no state to speak for you or save your bacon in international jurisdiction. From all the foregoing that I have said, it is apparent that after the Second World War, the world governments colluded and or were forced into agreements to operate in this fashion. It is also obvious that most of the people on Earth are in fact stateless until and unless they act to restore their own lawful government on the land and soil jurisdictions, most of which have been inactive since the 1930s. You can look up on Dun & Bradstreet to verify the franchise that runs your local government. Let me show you. Open your browser and copy and paste in this URL. It'll take you to Dun & Bradstreet, Dunn's number lookup. So for your local state, put in other company and your state government, state of, let's say, Wisconsin. And the state is Wisconsin. And search. See? State of Wisconsin. Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, and it's active. Let's break it down even further. Your county. See, I live in County of Kankakee. That is in Illinois. Search. County of Kankakee. Headquarters active. Kankakee, Illinois. Now let's break it down even further. Now I've told you in the previous episode that all your government services, state, county, township, city, village, are controlled and operated by Federal United States, Inc. So let's put Village of Hopkins Park, which is my local town government in Illinois. There, Village of Hopkins Park. Now we've taken the time to list for you in our book, in this book here, You Know Something is Wrong When, authored by our fiduciary and our head of state. In this book, we have also listed the Dun & Bradstreet numbers of federal agencies and their franchises in the appendix on page 267, I believe. Here, you have your United States government. It has a Dun & Bradstreet number. Its agencies are listed here. The states of states, the cities of the states are also listed here with Dun & Bradstreet numbers, and so on. The United Nations Dun & Bradstreet numbers. Any corporation that's listed in the Dun & Bradstreet registry are private, commercial, for-profit corporations, not governments at all. Now, that book that I showed you provides a historical account of how they did it, so I would urge you to get you a copy. All of our government services, like I said, township, village, county, city, state, are provided by the federal United States government service providers operating as commercial franchises. Now I want to break down for you how our federal United States government was originally structured. Let me undo some miseducation you learned in school first about the structure of our United States government. Your history books taught you this. Watch this short video clip explaining the 3 branches of the United States government.
Three branches of government. What does a tree and the United States government have in common? If you said they both have branches, you are right. Today, we are going to learn about the 3 branches of the United States government and how they work. When you look at a tree, you see branches that attach to its trunk. Without its branches, the tree looks pretty silly. The branches of a tree make it a healthy plant. and all the branches are important. Like a tree, the government has branches, 3 to be exact. These 3 branches work together to equally contribute to the well-being of its citizens. The 3 branches of government include the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Each branch has a special, unique role established by the United States Constitution to separate government powers. This separation is called a system of checks and balances. What does that mean? Well, it means that the government's power is shared by each branch, and each branch has some power to check or stop actions by the other branches. The goal is to balance each branch, preventing any one branch from becoming too powerful or controlling. Pretty neat, right? Let's talk more about each branch of government and what they do.
Legislative, executive, and judicial. I learned that in my history class too, but it's not true. Our forefathers set up our 3 branches to the United States government as federal, municipal, and territorial. Our miseducational system has substituted these 3 branches of our United States government with the British version, which counts the executive, legislative, and judicial functions of their corporations as their 3 branches to their government. However, our entire structure of government was actually more complicated than that. To end the American Revolutionary War, concessions had to be made. No less than 14 separate series of peace treaties were required to settle the War of Independence. That is because government business operates in multiple jurisdictions of law. They are the national soil jurisdiction, international land and sea jurisdictions, global air jurisdictions, and even within these jurisdictions, they create specialized jurisdictions when they overlap, such as land commerce and admiralty maritime. When the dust settled, the constitutions, 3 of them, not just one, formalized and implemented the results of the treaty agreements. Constitutions are essentially the service contracts that define the limits of those delegated powers of our sovereign governments. We Americans did not get a clean sweep victory, but we did achieve our independence and sovereignty on our land and soil to self-govern, together with a very substantial interest in the non-enumerated powers retained under the 10th Amendment of those constitutions. This resulted in our forefathers setting up 2 distinct government structures for America: a sovereign American government for our own self-governance, and a federal United States government to whom they delegated some of our powers. Now, let me break down why and how it had to be set up this way. Take a look at this chart. I took the liberty to edit this chart that I showed you in episode 1 to include certain facts in alignment with the historical research that I'm going to share here with you today. I'm going to take the time to break this down because your assemblies will need to decide if you will want to resurrect our American Federal Republic under the Constitution for the United States of America of 1787, or if you want the Federation to control your states of states corporations when they are returned back into your control from the British Territorial United States government, as it should have been 160 years ago. So starting here on the left, our national soil jurisdiction, our Union of States, go by the name of the United States. And intentionally, the was added to its name to separate it away from all the other organizations that were calling themselves the United States. It's an unincorporated, self-governing body controlling all of the business that goes on here at home on the soil of our nation states. Here in the middle, the United States of America is a federation of states of that union. For the first 5 years of our government, the federation, also unincorporated, operated both in the international land jurisdiction of trade, which is corporated, and the global air jurisdiction of commerce, which is incorporated. How could they do this? The states of the Union that are members of the Federation form their own states of states by charter, so that the Federation states had commercial entities controlled by the Federation prior to the Articles of Confederation in 1781. This one on the right. Taken together, this loose association of states controlled by the Federation made up really the first Confederation that was finally made separate and official with the Articles of Confederation. Crucial to this understanding is that business can be unincorporated, corporated, or incorporated, such as our United States government here at the bottom. All of these are incorporated entities. Unincorporated means freestanding and independent private business functioning under full liability of the owners in all jurisdictions. Corporated means recorded as a private or a public business entity doing international business under private indemnity. Or incorporated, meaning registered as a business doing business as a franchise of a pre-existing recorded parent corporation, and therefore described as being incorporated, as in included or made a part of a pre-existing corporation. You can see that all and only the federal United States branches, the American Federal Republic, the British Crown, United States of America, and the Municipal Holy Roman Empire United States, Inc. All of them are incorporated franchises. So you have unincorporated entities that engage in business in all the jurisdictions as the guarantor, the underwriters, the principals. Then you have corporated entities such as the States of America, the Confederation of States on the right, that engage in international trade and recorded under private indemnity bonds. Then you have the incorporated entities here at the bottom that engage in commerce worldwide as registered at sea, that's British Territorial or Municipal, or recorded on land, that is the American Federal Republic, under private or public insurance. So you see the unincorporated federation can operate the corporate states of states, and the corporate states of states can operate the incorporated federal republics. Think of it as a spectrum. Unincorporated, corporated, incorporated, with an increasing portion of involvement from the public. Unincorporated is private and self-insured. Corporate is either public or private and bonded to do business in international jurisdictions. Incorporated is commercial and insured privately or by the public, depending on whether the entity in question is incorporated into a private corporation or a public corporation. See, I told you it was a little complicated. Did you follow all of that? You see, all of the federal United States government branches are incorporated and subject to bankruptcy. Sovereign, unincorporated governments are not. Like I said, it is complicated, and that is because government really is business. So as you are trying to interpret the current political landscape and what has happened over the past 160 years, if you view it more in terms of corporations negotiating business transactions and not as government protecting your rights, you will more accurately interpret what you are experiencing today and why. None of these incorporated franchises belong in our local towns providing us with any government services. That was the job of our American government. I haven't even talked about the companies that run our national government services. That discussion will come in a later episode. Our American Federal Republic franchises are no longer operational as of 1861. These are the business entities that were called the Missouri Republic, and it had a partner corporation called the Republic of Missouri. We had the Illinois Republic with its partner corporation, the Republic of Illinois. We had the Maine Republic with its partner, the Republic of Maine, and so on. The bottom line is the confederation that was responsible for the American Federal Republic failed. In 1787, the Confederation, operating as the States of America Corporation, was entrusted to function as an American chartered corporation in the business of providing governmental services and exercising delegated commercial powers for the states of the Union. In 1861, this corporation was split in half, and by 1863, the remaining Northern Confederate states, which are the states of America, the Confederation, meaning the states of states, were bankrupted by Lincoln, President Abraham Lincoln. The Southern Confederate states, meaning the states of states, were ruinated by the Union Army, as history records. The American Federal Republic was a chartered franchise operated as a United States corporation by the original Confederation of States under the Constitution for the United States of America of 1787. For all intents and purposes, a third of the American government that were entrusted to provide commercial services and representation ceased to exist. Its contract, the Constitution for the United States of America, went dormant for lack of a successor or for a lack of reconstruction of the Federal Republic Corporation doing business as the United States Incorporated. Left dormant, this United States Corporation was stolen. We have a case of stolen identity in Washington, D.C. In 1871, the British Territorial U.S. Congress, acting under conditions of deceit and coercion, declared itself the owner and inheritor of the United States Corporation and all its assets. They did this by assuming that the lawful owners and inheritors of these assets, the living people, were absent and the assets were abandoned. Thus, they took over the identity, name, and functions of the United States Corporation. That was originally run as an American corporation by the States of America Confederation. They did not attempt to operate it as the former Federal Republic, but instead transferred the assets and redefined it as a municipal corporation and began running it under the auspices of the Constitution of the United States of 1790. As usual, the Brits and the Holy Roman Empire split the spoils from the legalized theft 60-40 in favor of the Roman Pontiff, the Pope, having the larger portion. In this way, the successors to the Holy Roman Empire, receivers of the Constitution of the United States of 1790, retained its 10% controlling interest in the new municipal corporation, calling itself by the same name, the United States Incorporated. They ran the whole operation under the Constitution of the United States, and nobody was the wiser. This arrangement required a degree of collusion and cooperation between the British territorial government and the Roman municipal government, a collusion that was given form and structure in 1937 with their joint release of the Declaration of Interdependence of the Governments in the United States. Remember that one? So the plot thickens. Remember the bankruptcy master plan I told you about in episode 1 that began in 2007, ran through 2015 unabated? The grand finale bankruptcy scheme? Well, this is how it plays out. Get the timeline. 2015, the United States Inc. franchise is declared bankrupt. Chapter 7, involuntary bankruptcy. They're going away. It's going to be dead and gone, settled. 2020, 5 years later, Joe Biden gets elected, and 3 days later, he's the president of nothing. That part of the bankruptcy had already taken place. He has to form a new corporation and be the president of that instead. So he is the president of the old bankrupted municipal entity for only 3 days. Then boom, he is the president of something called White House Office Incorporated. You saw all this strangeness happening on the national television with the closing of the White House building and the changing of the production sets when Biden was making his TV appearance. Donald Trump, meantime, he is no longer president. Why? Well, you thought it was because of a stolen election. Not so. That's the theater they wanted you to believe. They used a stolen election narrative to incite the masses, just like they used the slavery narrative to incite the masses in 1861. Remember what I said about a red herring? Trump and the White Hats got enough investors to pay off enough of the USA Incorporated debt to put it back in the black and get Trump back in office as the Commander-in-Chief of the USA Inc. and the British Territorial government as receivers of the United States Inc., all capital letters. This is the same thing that Abraham Lincoln did, same exact playbook. It's scary, the parallels between them. Lincoln was also commander-in-chief of a bankrupt corporation after they declared bankruptcy in the spring of 1863. The day before he declared bankruptcy, the Lieber Code was issued. It was the first executive order, General Order 100, was put into effect. And Lincoln operated as commander-in-chief from then on until his death. Donald Trump did the exact same dance right in front of our very eyes. He had a bankrupt entity, USA Incorporated, in Chapter 11, and then they got enough financiers, enough backers together, and they pulled it out of bankruptcy. Trump was operating as commander-in-chief under a continuance of government that entire time. This is quite a significant different interpretation than Derek Johnson's continuance of government play-by-play rundown. And now Trump and the British Territorial government is back in a position where they are the receivers of the Municipal United States, all capital, corporation bankruptcy. So let's review the timeline again. Abraham Lincoln issues the Lieber Code, the first executive order ever, General Order 100, which made the military responsible for the nation's money. Hint QFS. Declare bankruptcy. This allowed Lincoln to continue operating as commander-in-chief under the continuance of government protocol. Trump did exactly that. So the British Territorial USA Corporation is out of bankruptcy now and is in receivership of the Municipal United States Inc., trying to take in all of the municipal assets. This is what you are witnessing with Doge. This is just standard business practice for these two business partners who are still misrepresenting themselves to the American public today. So what happens next? Mr. Trump appeared at the World Court in April of 2025, attempting to claim an ownership interest in our assets, and he couldn't gain standing to make a claim against our land and soil assets. He couldn't appear there as our representative and gain what the British Crown wanted. And what we have is a situation where our British territorial citizens were making a bid, a claim on abandonment to seize all of our land and soil assets by pleading that America had been vacated. No Americans live there. Well, we were there to rebut that claim. The irony is that we had offered to explain the situation to Trump. We've offered at each point along the way as employers to explain things and desist, and we keep getting stonewalled and evaded, which reeks of bad faith on the part of both of the federal United States service providers that remain after the so-called Civil War. The fact that they're still pretending that the Civil War was truly a war and not a mercenary conflict is another bad faith issue. It's as simple and clear as the fact that no Congress issued any declaration of war related to the American Civil War. And as you can see, all the federal constitutions require that Congress, not the president, that Congress declares war. So the lack of a declaration of war, and according to the records on how the people were inducted into service and what entities were forming up companies to fight in this war, and the fact that no formal peace treaties were ever signed or peace process entered into it, all comes down to the same thing. This was not a war. It was a mercenary conflict. And their failure to resolve it has resulted in an illegal mercenary occupation of our country. They can try to argue it 6 ways to Sunday, but they can't come up with the goods. And in the same way, you can't be at the sea working for one of these District of Columbia corporations and claim that you have standing on the land and soil. We have tried to make that very clear to Mr. Trump and the White Hats on numerous occasions. But there he was at the World Court and frankly confused about why he couldn't establish standing. Where were all his supposedly top flight lawyers? Where were all the people that were supposed to be advising him? And where was his duty to us? Did he think that by redefining us as British territorial citizens that he could somehow save us? No. Save the country? But the country isn't his, and it doesn't belong to the British royals. This country belongs to the people who live here. And in order to have standing as one of the living people, he would have to give up his corporate office and come home, which is something that he was never willing to do. And there are arguments going both ways, but the point is that if we hadn't been there from the Federation of States, if Chief Fast Horse hadn't been there for the Lakota Sioux Native Nation, the entire country would have been declared vacant and up for grabs as if we weren't even here. Because, of course, we've all been misrepresented and impersonated as foreigners in our own country. Because he could not establish standing, he went away empty-handed. We offered to work with Donald Trump and to teach him what he needed to know about these issues, but to no avail. In every instance, we have acted as employers sympathetic to him and to his administration. The World Court has acted in our favor and recognized the claim of the living people, indigenous. For us, that means formed from the land and soil of each country. Donald Trump is ignoring their ruling. Like I said in my previous episode, we have every right to call Trump and the British territorial government to the carpet on this. I want to read an email communication one of our state nationals received from an organization calling itself Republic for the United States of America. It's currently posturing itself as the interim government who stands in wait for Trump to contact them directly and tell them what the plan and timeline is for the Republic to finally be restored. Make note that they are referring to our stolen American Federal Republic established under the Constitution for the United States of America of 1787. Let me pull up their website so you can browse it as I read. Here is their website, Republic for the United States of America. Information about the interim government restoring operations under the Constitution for the United States of America. You listen and you browse as you reflect on the information that I have shared with you already in this episode, and as I read the email communication that was sent to one of our state nationals. It reads, and I quote, "Thank you for reaching out. It sounds like you are a follower of Anna von Reitz. I heard she is having legal problems now, so perhaps her status process isn't as strong as she thought. The way that you can determine which republic is the actual government is by the date of origin. We can claim November 14th, 2010 by virtue of our Declaration of Sovereign Intent, signed in a continental Congress by a quorum of states that stood up using a grassroots approach. You can read that document and the proclamation of claim and interest at this website link. Our documents were filed with receipts in the international systems in May 2012. In addition, I will share a brief history of our involvement with the White Hat military and Trump below my reply. Our members, which we call electors, do not accept the fraud that was perpetrated upon us by the corporate crime syndicate. However, many of us have completed a status correction in order to protect ourselves from the crime syndicate, while the Republic is not yet restored. Once the Republic is restored, all fraudulent contracts are null and void. The counties are settling on the land using the county assembly structure. Once they have a minimum number of counties settled in the state, then a state assembly can be created from delegates from the county assemblies. We follow the original Constitution up to and including December 19th, 1860. Thus, we have a House and a Senate as originally intended. The Constitution includes the first 13 amendments, but the 13th is the actual original missing 13th Amendment about the penalties for violating the Titles of Nobility Clause. We have a Secretary of Treasury overseeing a treasury with $0. The White Hats told us that once the Republic is restored, the actual U.S. Treasury would be under our control. We are forced to individually use the de facto banks at this time until the Republic is restored. Then almost all banks will be removed. The QFS system is already in place and will be a major part of the financial process of restoration. Now, let me continue this read from the email itself. How the military has worked with the Republic. Let me tell you the story of this Republic and the military and Trump. The good guy military started off with a group of patriotic retired generals around the time of the JFK assassination in 1963. They called themselves the Army of Virginia. They've been working to save America for 60 years. They started a plan to save the Republic back around 1979. That same group of patriots acted too soon, and the Clintons had 300 members killed during his presidency, 1993 to 2001. That same group of military were the ones that approached Tim Turner and his colleagues, patriots, the Restore America Plan, RAP, that were teaching Constitution classes and had a radio show back in late 2008. They needed to restore the Republic before April 1st, 2010, because of a treaty executive order from President Bush Sr., 1989 to 1993, when the United Nations would be allowed to take over America in times of unrest. This is called suzerainty. Tim Turner prayed and fasted so that God would tell him what to do to restore the Republic. Tim's prayers were answered, and he wrote down the plan that he was told. He brought the plan to the military, and they asked him where the plan came from, because it was the best plan they had seen in 50 years. The Patriots were successful. Tim Turner was appointed as president of the Republic. Then in November 2010, during the First Continental Congress, Republic representatives signed the Declaration of Sovereign Intent, reestablishing the lawful republic. That same group of white hat military had a meeting with two members, retired military, of the Republic in 2013. Two retired generals and their staffs had a full-day meeting going over every single word and sentence in the Republic's Declaration of Sovereign Intent and Proclamation of Claim and Interest. These were the documents that were noticed with receipts to the United Nations, Universal Postal Union, the International Court at The Hague, and other organizations as required by international law. At the end of those days with the generals, everyone understood what had been accomplished and that it was 100% constitutional and lawful. They declared the Republic was the authentic government of the United States of America. One of those generals became very active with the Republic for many years. In 2013, Tim Turner was kidnapped by Obama's, Biden's, and Hillary's three-letter agencies, thrown in prison for fake crimes, and set up for a kangaroo court to ensure he went to prison. The Republic was nearly destroyed by the infiltrators, from about 22 million followers and active members down to only a few hundred. Only about 8 states had some sort of representation after 2014, even though all 50 states were nearly fully represented before that. Through line of succession, James Buchanan Geiger, the president pro tempore of the Senate, became the president while Tim Turner was in prison. Shortly after that, Geiger was elected as president through the Electoral College process. That same group of military recruited Donald Trump to be the president in 2016. Trump reached out to President Geiger to have a meeting about the Republic in 2016, but they discussed it and realized that it would be too dangerous for both of them to have that meeting. Geiger told Trump to focus on getting elected, and they could meet later. Of course, Trump was elected, but that meeting never took place for various reasons, namely the total chaos of Trump's first term. That same group of military communicates with us sporadically to give us updates, what we affectionately call breadcrumbs, because it's not a whole lot of information, and we have to interpret and connect the dots. Since the beginning, the military has said that once the republic was restored, it would be a 10-year plan, which would have been around 2020. We all know what happened then, and here we are today. We are waiting for Trump to contact us directly and tell us what the plan and timeline are. In the meantime, we build the team and fill the seats with honorable people. So you see, the end goal of this bankruptcy scheme, their master plan, was to bankrupt the 2 foreign federal corporate franchises and usurp the identity of our American Federal Republic while acting as British Crown foreign agents, and they haven't quit trying. This is why Trump showed up in World Court in 2025. Our response to RUSA, the American public, and the world at large, your sovereign American government is formally issuing to all of you this international public notice on this global broadcast so that all may fully be informed and may henceforth be held responsible. Hear our international public notice to the world. This international public notice is to inform you that the foreign federal subcontractors, the United States government services corporations, have unlawfully and criminally converted your political status from that of an American to that of a foreign citizen. They have substituted their corporations for your lawful American government for 160 years. In so doing, they stole your identity, your credit, your gold, and your land assets. We, the Federation of States, DBA, the United States of America Unincorporated, your lawful American government, established in 1776 and restored in 1998, have sued them for breach of trust, breach of contract, and fraud to recover these assets on behalf of the American people. We won. To claim the birthright and financial assets you are owed, contact your local American State Assembly to correct your political status. You can expect to see your states of the Union and Union State County Assemblies delivering this international public notice to your communities. They may come as postcards into your mailboxes, flyers posted on your community bulletin boards, public meetings and meeting greets scheduled at county locations throughout your state to tell you directly the plan and the timeline for our American government to completely be restored. You, the Americans, are responsible to self-govern, which means you have to peacefully, orderly, and lawfully declare and reconstruct your missing local American town governments that you have been denied over the past 160 years. I invite you to even be proactive and visit our claimyourinheritance.info website and find your States of the Union Assembly. Contact them to find out their county tour schedule. Better yet, schedule a meeting there in your town with them. The British Territorial government and the Holy Roman Empire government subcontracted out their constitutional responsibilities to these incorporated government franchises. The British Territorial government is supposed to be protecting us under our treaty and constitutional agreement, not their own municipal subcontractors. Those municipal subcontractors aren't even supposed to be here on the land and soil of the states. They are supposed to be limited to the operations within the District of Columbia, within the 1 square mile boundary stones on Capitol Hill of the municipality Washington, D.C. But instead, all of these municipal corporations have piggybacked on the territorial corporations like fleas on the dog. So the territorial officials are the ones responsible for their presence and their operations here within our states. Since 1937, we have been paying for government redundancy, 2 of everything, run by 2 different corporations based in the District of Columbia. The British territorial entity, known as the United States of America Incorporated, or USA Inc., has been running their set of departments and agencies under names spelled out like this: the Department of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, leaving the incorporated part off, of course, and so on. The Holy Roman Empire subcontractor, known by various iterations as the United States Incorporated or United States Inc., all capital letters, meanwhile provided the civilian services through a mirrored operation identified by acronyms. such as DOD, DHS, DOJ, FBI, the alphabet corporations. Both of our foreign subcontractors have their own entire set of federal departments and agencies, ostensibly to serve their own citizenry. However, their own citizenry accounts for less than 25 million people altogether combined. Let me give you an example of this. Most of you don't even recognize it, although it's staring you straight in the face. Take a look at this. This is an official form letter from the IRS. On the top left, you'll see Department of the Treasury, Internal Revenue Service. Now that is your British territorial franchise, the Internal Revenue Service, written out. But to the direct left of it, you'll see IRS. That's your municipal corporation franchise, the partner corporation. Those aren't the same thing. That's two corporations in partnership with each other, trying to extract money out of you. This is how they do normal business. Staring you straight in the face, but you didn't notice. During 2025, we've seen a house cleaning fury, which is unprecedented. This is taking place because the old United States Inc. Corporation is in the final throes of Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and every one of its departments and agencies has to be fully audited as part of the bankruptcy settlement process. It's not a coup. It's not politically motivated. It's business. At the same time, that Donald Trump's administration is charged with performing this audit process, his own corporation, USA Inc., recently restructured and rebranded itself as the United States of America LLC. It's faced with many challenges and tough decisions. It is tasked with dissolving or absorbing 2/3 of what we have known as the federal United States government. The leadership of the USA Inc. must carefully consider what parts of the old United States Inc. are worth salvaging and paying for, and how best to jettison the rest. So ask yourself, are there really two opposing plans playing out in this theater, or is there really just one? You are being told that the plan was to wake America up. Well, are you awake yet, America? To those honorable people out there acting in good faith to restore the lawful government of America, contact your states of the union and help us finish this work of doing just that. I hope that I brought home the hidden history that has kept America and the world lulled to sleep for more than a century. Stay tuned for more to come of what more we don't know and what needs to be done about it. I want to hear your thoughts on the matter. Please put your comments and questions below. Let's evaluate this. My reference notes will be in the description below. Do your own due diligence to research the facts of what I presented here today. I invite you to meet me back here for the next episode of our Resurgence Pulse Report. See you next time.